If you want to get better at climbing, learning from Adam Ondra is not a bad place to start. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how to move like one of the most technical climbers in the world. I'm going to give you 6 key techniques that Adam Ondra uses to get up the hardest routes in the world and that you can use in your next session to almost certainly climb harder. This first technique is one that you might not have heard before, and I tend to call it an invisible technique because you can't necessarily see it when someone is climbing. This is relaxing. Look at Adam's posture and his relaxed arms through the moves on this climb. You can see he's trying to keep his body really relaxed and save as much energy as possible through any easy section on a route. Relaxing might sound really counterintuitive, particularly when someone is climbing on a terrain as physically demanding as Adam is. However, this is his style of climbing. It's a high risk, high reward style. Take this example of Adam falling off this easy section of Bon Voyage.
Sorry. This is what I was talking about. Sometimes I fall off 7B.
Adam also admits to falling off something as easy as 6B.
What's the easiest route you've ever fallen on?
I think 6B.
6B? Yeah.
And here is a clip of Adam falling off just a 7A warm-up.
Even 7A can be a reason to fall.
The point is, he's constantly practicing full commitment simultaneously with full efficiency. I believe this is a large reason why Adam gets up such hard routes so quickly. It's high risk, but high reward. For you to practice this, you need to do as Adam does. You want to practice this skill on the easier routes that you're doing, not just your projects. The most obvious opportunity for people to practice this is in the warm-ups and at the beginning of their climbing session when you're working on the easier routes and starting to build up to something harder. You want to relax your arms, relax your hips, relax your fingers, and also work on calm breathing throughout the movement. I'd also suggest you try and lead the movement with your hips where possible, using the largest muscle groups in your body to create most of the movement. Adam will also move quite dynamically between movements, and if possible, using the momentum from one move to carry into the next move. This next technique is something most people don't give enough attention to. But before I say what it is, watch this clip and see if you can tell me what you think it is. You have a high climbing IQ if you notice that Adam Ondra was using purposeful breathing before he even left the ground. There was another standout skill in there as well, but we're going to return to that one later on. The trick is to start your purposeful breathing before you even leave the ground and before you're out of breath. Then when you're climbing, you want to continue this purposeful breathing like Adam is doing here in this flash attempt of a 9A. Most people leave breathing as an automatic response to being exhausted, or even worse, they'll suppress it because they're tensing up or they're scared. Adam bypasses this by purposefully breathing before he even leaves the ground. This does not mean you won't hold your breath at times. Watch this clip of Adam during the crux move of Bon Voyage, where he's reaching really far out to the left. As soon as he's established on the next hold, you can hear his breathing immediately commence again. I love this clip of Adam breathing on his ascent of Drift 8C. Have a watch. He takes an extra deep breath before pulling onto the rock and then completing 4 hard moves, holding his breath, and then commences his breathing again. The whole time watching this climb, you'll see Adam's breath is in motion with his movement. And this allows him to control pressure when he needs to try hard, but also continue to get oxygen in any respite he gets between the hardest moves on this boulder problem. And of course, Adam will step up his breathing into his famous power scream as a way of forcing the exhale and keeping momentum in his breathing. So how do you practice your breathing while you're climbing? I've got 4 steps here which I think are worth following. And the first is that you pick easier or moderately difficult climbs to practice your breathing on. This is so that you have slightly more headspace so you can put your focus of attention on your breathing. You're going to graduate to harder climbing later on. Number 2 is that you should be breathing loud enough so that you can hear it or someone else standing behind you can hear it. This is really important if you want to make sure your breathing is really purposeful and deep. Number 3 is that you can hold your breath, and you're going to do this to help maintain pressure in your core and tension throughout your body, but you want to do this just on the hardest moves of the climb. Number 4 is to breathe in motion with your movement. Now, your breathing will typically vary on the moves you're doing, but I think some general rules that apply most of the time is you're going to be inhaling when you're relaxing. You're going to be holding your breath on the hardest tension moves, and this can include foot moves as well. And generally you want to try and exhale on hand moves. Think of a tennis player, for example, that exhale as they hit the ball. It leaves you room to inhale immediately after the move when you can relax and you're already established on the hold. Remember the previous clip where I asked you to look for the technique, but I also mentioned there was a second one in there that we'd revisit later? Well, this is that time, and this is all about moving fast and pacing. Let's have a quick look at this clip of Adam racing to a knee bar rest on silence 9B. This is important because time on the wall is a major factor in how fatigued we're going to feel. Adam describes this section as only 8B, which means it's the easy section of silence, and he's able to easily increase the pace without damaging the efficiency of his movement in this section. Here is another example of Adam on Perfectamundo 9B+. You can see him racing up this early section of the climb, which is the easier section. So long as efficiency of movement is not sacrificed, or even if it is sacrificed a bit, time on the wall is always going to be the multiplier of the energy spent. Adam will arrive at the harder section of this climb feeling much fresher, and keep in mind this is linked to his purposeful breathing and relaxing throughout. The idea of exhaling on a move is important if the next move is arriving less than a second later. Now let's watch Adam get to the difficult section, Perfectamundo. You can see him change down gears, reduce the pace, and put maximum effort into the hardest moves of this climb. It's not that Adam just climbs exclusively fast, it's that he's got the range to climb fast when it matters most. Now watch this short clip of Adam climbing on Bohemian Rhapsody 9A+. It actually looks like he's climbing at a relatively normal pace here. But notice how he leaves no time wasted. He's either adjusting his grip, moving his feet, changing his gaze, or making a move. Everything is super intentional, which is what you need on a red point attempt or a serious onsite or flash attempt. There's no time wasted, no energy wasted. So how do you work on your pacing? My recommendation is you're going to pick a boulder, a route, or a circuit, and we're going to go through 4 different steps on this to increase our pace. First, you want to take your chosen boulder or route and you want to break it down into individual sections and just become well rehearsed with it. You want to work on individual moves and linking sections together, but at this stage, don't be too concerned with the speed of your climbing. This is important because efficiency is still paramount. We want to get that first, and then we're going to try and increase the speed. Next, we're going to look for opportunities to carry momentum through different moves. Anything that allows you to create momentum from one move which can be carried into the next. Now we're going to practice refining our pace over several different laps. If you want, you can have a friend time you for this, and you can make it into a bit of a game, but don't let the time reduce your efficiency during the movement. If you're enjoying this process, my last step is for you to create a crux or build a crux into your climb. This is so much more common in outdoor climbing where we're mixed with easy and harder sections. This is going to allow you to practice changing gears in your climbing and changing pace from fast to slow depending on the difficulty of movement. This is also a great opportunity for you to layer in your purposeful breathing practice. My 4th technique here is not actually a skill, rather it's Adam's range of skills. Let's take his route silence, for example, and his ability to invert on a toe jam. And then on the same climb, we can see his amazing ability at knee barring. And again here on Brutal Rider 8C+. Notice how he's also using these positions to really relax and gain more energy back. Adam is also a dab hand at crack climbing, which is why he can turn up to the hardest big wall in the world, the Dawn Wall, and send it in just 8 days ground up style. He's also not too shabby at competition climbing. I don't really have a simple way that you could emulate this. Ultimately, Adam is so good at all of these skills because he dives headfirst into every climbing challenge that motivates him. I think one piece of wisdom that will serve us all well is to explore different styles of climbing and climbing on different rock types. When you learn to hand jam, you'll be surprised where you can find these techniques on sport climbs or even boulders. And when you learn to sport climb on twofers, you'll be surprised that you get much better and more proficient at knee barring on boulders. If you were to improve your bouldering, you'd much likely get better at toe hooking and heel hooking, even on different styles of climbing. This next skill is one you can almost certainly train yourself. Take a look at this clip of Adam climbing a bridge and see if you can see what it is. That's right, it's climbing in a pair of trainers. I'm only joking, it's of course Adam's amazing hip flexibility. One of my favorite videos to watch was Adam's amazing on-site attempt of Just Do It 8C+ in Smith Rock. On this climb, you can see his use of flexibility in many different situations. Here you can see Adam using a stemming or bridging position in this vague groove so that he can get opposition between his feet and take most of his body weight through this position. Here you can see Adam moving from a wide position into a rockover and into a frog, all while keeping his hips super close to the wall. You need excellent hip flexibility to be able to do this. I want to zoom in on one particular detail that some people might miss. If you look at Adam's ankle flexibility while he's resting over his left foot, you'll see how far over his toe his knee travels, allowing him to get his hips really close to that foot and the center of gravity over that foothold. Most of us will be able to rock over in a position like this, but the idea of being able to keep the heel low means that we keep the profile of the foothold the same even as we rock over. Look at Adam keeping his heel low on this dead point move in an overhang. He's using his ankle flexibility to essentially smear on what is a 50 or 60 degree overhang. I want to do one more example of Adam's flexibility because it demonstrates something I call the climber's split. Here he kicks out into a bridging position, albeit in a ridiculously big overhang. Here is another example which looks really similar using this really wide position. As that knee rotates forwards, the hips turn to face the other leg, and what looks like a side split starts to morph into more of a front split on the wall. This rotated leg requires more hip extension than it does hip abduction. Here's an image of Alex Megos doing something really similar, and the reason this works and appears fairly often is for two reasons. The first is that drop knee or internal rotation is going to help bring the hips closer to the wall than like a straightforward side split would, using the same mechanics that a drop knee does. The second is that this position is more attainable and often less strenuous than a straightforward side split. That's because as we rotate our hips to one side, it becomes more about hip extension and hip flexion like a front split, and this means that it's less limited by the hip socket itself. Due to this, it's used by climbers much more often in these really extreme bridging positions. Let's get into the training, and I'm going to break down the three main positions we've seen in these clips. The first one is going to be the open hip or frog position, which is so common with climbers. My first exercise for this is going to be the butterfly stretch. And actually, if you look at the clip of Adam on that bridge climb, you can really see the similarities of this position. I like to add weight with this one to assist the stretch because I think most people plateau with this stretch really quickly. Either hold for time, I would suggest 60 seconds, or you can perform slow tempo reps with this one. This gives you the option to steadily increase the weight. The next stretch is a frog stretch. This is an absolute classic with rock climbers. With this one, I would suggest holding for at least 60 seconds. Next up, we're looking at ankle flexibility, but I'm going to cover this in two different ways. The first, we're going to look at that rockover move where the knee is traveling over the toe. So what we want to do here is focus the stretching on the soleus muscle. This muscle crosses the ankle, but not the knee. So we're going to stretch it in a kneeling position. In this kneeling position, you simply want to be able to pull your weight over your toe, feeling a stretch deep at the lower part of the calf and into the Achilles. When we look at the extended position with the heel low, where we're going into that dead point move, or we're just trying to keep our heel low on a volume, for example, we need to focus the stretch into the gastrocnemius. And unlike the other muscle, the soleus, this muscle crosses the knee joint. So we need that extended leg when we're stretching the calf. This will look like a standing calf stretch. And again, I would suggest at least 30 seconds for this one, or 60 seconds alternating between legs. For the bridging positions, we're going to work on the front split and the side split, and this will also open up the climber split, which is kind of a hybrid of the two. I'll admit this is quite simplistic to look at it as just two stretches, and it's also both quite advanced stretches, but we can only fit so much in the video, so I think this is kind of all-encompassing. My advice would be to start with both of these stretches as supported, working on more relaxed passive stretching, but then progress it to more unsupported stretches so that we're building up the isometric strength in the muscles. Importantly, don't rush this one. This last point is actually something I nearly missed after looking at all of this video footage, because it actually comes into all of the bit you're doing when you're not climbing. And this is Adam's incredible ability to prepare for his climbing, whether that's a red point attempt or an on-site attempt. Adam, more so than almost any other climber in the world, puts a huge amount of effort into his preparation using things like visualization, using things like video review, maybe it's even having someone go down the route to check out the holds for him and brush things, and also things like being open-minded to the subtle details or changes he might change, like the change of grip position on a specific hold. Leaving absolutely no stone unturned and bringing all of this together is why Adam is capable of flashing 9A+. I would like to say a massive thank you to Adam Ondra for letting us use the footage on his YouTube channel to help create this video. And also a big thank you to his team that produced such high quality content that is available for free on YouTube. We are truly blessed. If you have not already, you need to be subscribed to Adam's channel because it has some of the best content on YouTube. And there's also amazing commentary from Adam on a lot of his videos, which is where you're going to pick up loads of these tips that he uses in his own climbing. If you've not subscribed to this channel yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're going to continue this Climb Like the Pros series. And next up, we've got Anna Hazelnut, and you're going to need to watch that one if you want to get better at slab climbing. Thanks for watching the video. We'll see you next time.